Sorry about that. Hi guys, Literary Prepper here with you again. So this is a part 2 of the last video that I did where I discussed The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and The Barefoot Investor. So just to recap, if you haven't seen the last video, then you can go back and watch that, but just to summarize some of the key sort of points that you want to take away from these books is the idea of saving a portion of your earnings and investing in something. So again, a lot more sort of information from the previous video, but I just forgot a couple of key sort of investment options, if you will. I forgot to put those in the last video. So I totally forgot to say that another way of investing is to invest in your preps. That was really dumb. So yeah, invest in your preps. So if you follow the you know, sort of rule of threes or whatever they call it, so the first thing that, well, some people say water, some people say air. So if you're that way inclined, then if you go with, you want, some sort of air filtration, then you can invest in gas masks, or even if, you're sort of taking it to the medical mask perspective, I believe you can grab those from chemists. There's a lot of stuff that is available in America that we find really, really difficult to get a hold of in Australia. I try really hard not to buy things online where possible because I prefer spending in cash in person for a whole number of reasons, including supporting your local community, which we all really need to do. So unfortunately, for some prepping supplies, particularly things like your Mylar bags for food storage, you do need to buy them online overseas, unfortunately. And some of your medical masks and your gas masks may fall into that category. So I actually don't have any of those in my preps. They're on my list of things to obtain, but I focus more on the other sorts of bits and pieces. So if there were some kind of medical sort of viral or bacterial epidemic at this point in time, my stores are lacking. That's an area that I need to patch. So that's something you need to consider. Water. I cannot emphasize enough how much you need to get water. In my previous videos, I've suggested a couple of different ways that are really easy to store extra water. So in the video that I did on storing wine and beer, I mentioned that you can grow plants in the leftover bottles and have the plants sitting in just a bottle full of water, just hanging around your house. Have lots of those because it's like, obviously the plants are oxygenating the air, which is really, really beneficial for oxygen breathers. But it also gives you another way of storing water that is more inconspicuous because, as I said, people are not going to look at those bottles and think, oh, prepper. They're going to look at them and go, oh, pretty plant. So that's another way. Another way that is a little bit more icky, but you should be storing some sort of water filtration system to not make it icky, is fish tank. I have a 2 foot by 4 foot fish tank. I bought that secondhand online for like $100 like 4 years ago, and it's another way that I can store a decent quantity of water is within that fish tank. And you can do all sorts of things with fish tanks as well. They're brilliant to have. I think everyone should have a fish tank if they have the space for it. And then of course you have you can go down to your local camping store and buy like really big, like if you go to somewhere like Anaconda or BCF or whatever your local camping store is, you can actually buy like a 25 litre and up. I think even go to Bunnings, I think. And you know, get like a really big water storage containers that you can keep in your garage, or if you just want to have extra water for hygiene purposes rather than drinking, that you can keep them outside or in a garden shed or something. If you do use anything for drinking water, make sure that you sterilize it beforehand. That's really, really important. And then of course you can go to just, if you walk into a supermarket, bottled water, or you can buy bags of water that look like a green sack of water in a box kind of thing. So that's another thing that you can have a look at. Then of course you go to food. That's fairly straightforward. Anything that you can store for long periods of time: beans, rice, canned goods. And then of course, you know, you're looking at some kind of defense system. So if we're investing in skills, there are a lot of adult beginner courses in things like Krav Maga that are becoming really popular, or other martial arts for adults. Even if you just join like a local sort of soccer team or a touch football team or something, it's still really good for your fitness. So that's another way that you can invest. It looks like a hobby, but you're investing in your fitness. Even something like a gym membership that you actually use, not just one that you have. But it's really good to sort of, you know, keep up your fitness, because in an emergency situation, you don't know what you're going to have to deal with. You may have to, you know, lift things, climb things, run, walk. You know, you need to start looking at your personal fitness levels. So that's another really big sort of thing that you could invest in. And then of course you look at shelter. And you know, that one can be a tent. You can get a tarp with some string. Learn how to build a stick shelter. One thing that I feel really, really blessed about is that when I was like younger, the first primary school that I went to was actually behind a national park, and every now and then we would sort of, we would as a class go into the bushland. Sorry about that, just had to get some water. Go into the bushland, and one of the things that we were encouraged to do was actually build stick shelters, and you know, then we would sort of see whether or not we waterproofed them enough. We didn't take anything with us aside from, you know, our own person, and we would just build shelters out of whatever sticks and leaves and whatnot we could find in our surroundings, and that was actually really good from sort of, you know, an early sort of survivalist perspective. That they were training us sort of unofficially about what to do in an emergency sort of situation, because if anything had have happened in, you know, that particular location, I knew that I could go to the school. I knew that I could go to the area behind the school, and they also had a number of sort of abandoned train tunnels and old sort of shallow cut mines and all the rest of it. So there were all of these ready-made little hidey holes in there that, you know, even at, you know, sort of 6 and 7 years old, we were identifying as possible shelters if we had to sort of, you know, live in a sort of bushland scenario, which is really unique when sort of think about it, because I from that primary school I went to another one that was very much sort of academic based rather than sort of let's go and explore nature, and very much targeted at training everyone to just parrot whatever the school system, you know, non-information was, so that you could get a good mark and then get into university and little boxes on the hillside kind of thing. So I'm very, very grateful for that experience in my early primary school years of that really basic sort of training that, you know, those teachers gave us. And it was just a way to sort of get us out and burn off some steam. But it's also something that you can consider doing with your own kids, is taking them out into some kind of bushland area. There's a lot of national parks that you can go camping in, and just teaching them basic things like that. It's actually really fun. It's, you know, a brilliant family activity. That's something that you can do, and that's investing in your kids. Which brings me to my last point. Invest in children. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, if you don't want to have kids, I'm not saying that you have to go out and have babies. I'm not one of those moms. You know, I understand that whilst I love my little boy, it's I like Elizabeth Gilbert's sort of comment when she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. It's one of, you know, the sort of first quotes very early on in the book, where she's quoting her sister, and her sister says, having children is like getting a tattoo on your face. You want to be really sure that you want to do it before you actually do it, and it's so true. That's Eat, Pray, Love as in the book, not the movie. Always read the book. But you want to invest in children, whether that's your own, if you have them, or whether that's in nieces and nephews, little cousins, your friends' kids. Bringing it back to precious metals. So if like this little guy here, I believe was like $25 or $30 or something. I can't remember exactly. The price of metals goes up and down on a daily basis, so whatever I paid for it is probably not what I would pay for it if I had to buy it again. But if you wanted to do something like buy one of those for each birthday or Christmas or whatever, and even if you don't actually give it to them, so you can, if you trust them to store it properly. There are some people that I care very deeply about, who I know would just, you know, either lose it or, you know, run out and cash it in for whatever the value is, and in doing so would probably lose money on it. But you can go out and buy something like that, and just maybe keep it in like a little box or something, and put it in like a drawer or a cupboard or something, and just keep it aside, and then give it to them at a later date. So you can give it to them either once it's appreciated in value to a point that you're happy with, and then you can give it to them and tell them that they can either hold on to it or cash it in, and it will be worth approximately X whenever you hand it over to them. Really nice if you're looking at doing it as like a graduation present, or like a, you know, an 18th or a 21st birthday present, or a wedding present or something. Or, you know, you can sort of keep it as an emergency sort of thing, so if the economy does, you know, just crash and burn, and, you know, you need like a fair amount of quick cash to get out of Dodge, then you can give it to them at that stage and say, you know, this is your emergency sort of money. That's how a lot of people fled Nazi Germany and Venezuela and other sort of really sort of nasty economic situations, is having a stash of precious metals that they can cash in, and, you know, you can either buy, you know, extra fuel or a plane ticket or whatever it is. It's, you know, a good way to sort of continue to store value without having to invest in a currency, because as we all know, money is or paper money, it's not worth shitting on it sometimes. That's just plain facts. You know, you don't have to look very far. Look what's happening in Venezuela at the moment, where the minimum wage, as of I think only a couple months ago, was barely enough to buy, you know, a couple of eggs. So you don't want your family to be in that situation, and I'm assuming that you don't want your loved ones to be in that situation. So you know, there are a lot of people out there who have this attitude of, if they haven't prepped, then, you know, be that on their heads. I'm a little bit softer. I can't think like that. I would not be able to say no if certain family members were to come to me and ask for help, So I put that into my preps, that, you know, those people are already accounted for. And you know, if it turns out that I have excess because they have been listening to me all these years and, you know, taking advice from everyone else out there who is saying you need to prepare, then I have extra. No one is ever going to complain about having extra. Well, I'm not anyway. So yeah, that's just the stuff that I forgot to tack on to the last video. So yeah, continue to invest in skills. I would definitely recommend going out and buying those books. Have a look at precious metals, and yeah, invest in children, because children are the future. So that's it for me for now. So if you liked this video, if you got value out of it, please feel free to like, share, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, feel free to pop them below in the comments section. And for now, I will see you guys next time. Bye.